Andor is different. Andor is good. Andor is really good. Almost too good. Some have said that Andor is HBO Star Wars. Some have said that it's boring or slow Star Wars. Some are saying that Andor is the best piece of live-action Star Wars content that we have ever gotten.
And I want you to get out of this office right now.
Ted, I got your voucher.
Out!
Or we will ever get. Star Wars is in a very, very strange place right now. I know some will not agree with me on this. I think that the Disney era has been mostly pretty positive. I will say that it has not, however, been perfect. We do have to be honest with ourselves. What era of Star Wars has been perfect? I think you'd be surprised at the amount of people that have rose-tinted glasses when it comes to overall looking at the past. A common theme that I've seen come up, especially in this current era, is that the George Lucas era was perfect.
Stir, whip, 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 stir. Come on, faster all together now. Cooking can be fun. Stir, whip.
But before we get into that, let's get back on track. I still truly believe the Disney era has been overall mostly positive. Now, with that positivity, fans obviously still have complaints. I think with the sequel movies and everything else that has come out since then, fans are kind of crazed. I would argue unintelligibly crazed. The Star Wars fandom has gotten so divisive and so angry that we're now even to the point where when we have such a really great project like Andor that has come out, you still have complaints. I truly believe that outside of Rogue One, Andor is the highest quality piece of media that we have gotten from Star Wars since the original trilogy, bar none, flat out. And it's unfortunately not even really close. The tough thing is about this, especially since The Force Awakens, I truly believe that I was in agreement with the general population about every single Star Wars project since. So before we truly dive in, I'm going to give you my opinion of every single Disney project that I have seen that I believe is worth mentioning. Force Awakens was good. Great writing, good cinematography. I absolutely loved the new cast. Daisy, John, Oscar, and Adam Driver were all absolutely phenomenal. I thought they did great in their roles. Really sad to see Han Solo go, and I was actually so hurt about it. I lost control over my body in the theaters when I saw it happen. I like stood up just in protest. Like, I was so mad. But overall, I was really happy with the direction that Force Awakens was going. I really had faith that we were going in the right direction. I was happy with Force Awakens. Rogue One, absolute masterpiece. Nothing else needs to be said. Last Jedi. Oh boy. Not a fan. Not a fan by any means whatsoever. It is the most controversial Star Wars film, but I understand that there are good things about this movie. There are things that are enjoyable in this movie. And whether or not the movie was good or not, that is not an excuse for fans to act the way that they did towards some of the actors, actresses. So that is not an excuse, and I do not tolerate it, and I've never been on that side of things whatsoever. But I truly believe that the mass majority of people did not enjoy this movie. However, and that's not to say there weren't people that enjoyed this movie. There are absolutely people that enjoyed The Last Jedi. People that are very passionate about it and defend it to this day, and there is nothing wrong with that. I'm happy to see it, truly. But this is the movie that absolutely split the fandom, tore it apart, and set it to where it currently is right now. Solo, for me, wasn't amazing, but it wasn't bad. I don't understand people that hate this movie. I had a lot of fun with it. I don't understand why people had problems with this movie. What hurts to me the most about Solo is it seems like Lucasfilm really didn't understand why Solo didn't perform well at the box office, and they really just did not want to acknowledge that The Last Jedi was so divisive. It carried over to Solo. It hurt it. It flat out did. It was not because they recast Harrison Ford. For them to put the blame on recasting decisions, I don't understand why they even did that. Clone Wars Season 7 was mostly amazing, outside of one arc in the middle. I think you know what I'm talking about. Oh man, the actors were good at acting. I have failed to mention John Williams has been stellar throughout all of this. That's about it. Yeah. Mando Season 1 is where things I felt like were on a immediate then positive trend. Mando Seasons 1 and 2 literally took over the world. Grogu was everywhere, he was in merchandise, he was in stores, and it was during an era where we really needed projects, especially during lockdown and all that, to kind of bring us together, and it did it so freaking well. Star Wars fans were all in pretty much agreement, and we were all having fun with it. There was nothing controversial really about it at the time. We were all having so much fun, and I truly, that was a great era, and it was a great time to be a Star Wars fan. Star Wars TikTok was popping off, Star Wars social media, we were all just having an absolute blast. Mandalorian Season 1 and 2 also had sprinkled in cameos who didn't feel like they were shoehorned or intentionally put in for fan service. They actually added to the story. Boba Fett was such a phenomenal addition, and to see him return, Season 2 is really a special time to be a Star Wars fan. Book of Boba Fett is like a 3-1 collapse.
It's tough to kind of swallow with the opportunity we had in front of us.
They had such a great thing going. I don't get it. It really felt like they just didn't know which story they wanted to tell in a show called Book of Boba Fett. We took nearly 2 episodes to completely remove the main character out of his own series to undo 2 seasons of a story where most of the viewers of that story weren't even watching. I don't know what was going on in the writer's room. I don't know what they were thinking. They fumbled. I'm sorry, flat out. I don't know what they were doing, respectfully. Wow. When it comes to Obi-Wan Kenobi, I really like the show. I know there were a few minor complaints, and obviously the chase scene with Leia probably wasn't the greatest chase scene in the world. But overall, I thought the series was okay. I thought Reva could have been fleshed out a little bit better, and I thought the finale and them cutting between the fight and then her chasing around a small child in Tatooine probably wasn't the best directing decision. Also, the cinematography during their fight literally just felt like I was watching only their lightsabers. I had to physically turn up my brightness on my TV. I don't know why this show, along with so many other modern TV shows, are really trying to just have us watching black screens. I don't get it. But with Kenobi, it just absolutely fascinated me that so many people are arguing about it breaking canon or trying to say that they never even met. Like, if people just don't know what they're talking about. Same thing happened with Kiadi Mundi and the whole Acolyte discussion. That was just the dumbest thing I've ever even heard. And even if nobody cares about Kiadi Conehead's birthday, I'm sorry. Nobody cares. Mando Season 3, it felt like they really started to kind of lose the plot entirely. I felt like Season 1 and 2, while it had a lot of really weird ragtag adventures kind of thrown in there, still had a really solid linear direction and a purpose to the adventures that they were going on. It felt like with Season 3, that was completely lost. We had tried to then put in Bo-Katan's story while also still trying to figure out what was happening with Grogu, because he all of a sudden, boom, is back with his dad Din Djarin. Yay, haha, that's so cute. Let's throw merchandise in. Woohoo! They're back, yay! It just felt like there were too many stories trying to be shoved in at once. I'm also not a fan of villains and people just coming back unnecessarily. Giancarlo's excellent at what he does, so it's not a knock to him. I love the actor. I've had a lot of pleasant experiences with him in person at conventions and stuff like that. He's a great guy. He's an insane actor. Oh my god. We did not need him back. Season 3 felt like it really, really wanted to focus on Bo-Katan's story. And that's not necessarily a bad thing, because Bo-Katan's actress did such a great job at making the transition from animated to live action, and Bo-Katan is such a cool character. So I'm really, really happy that we got more of her. We just needed to figure out which story we wanted to focus in. Mandalorian Season 3 didn't do that. Ahsoka is where I personally started to feel like I was separating from general consensus on what fan opinions are when it comes to everything Star Wars. I thought the show overall was really, really great. I still feel that the series was overall well received, but the complaints were a lot louder than I ever expected that they would be. We had overall really, really good saber choreography, and I also thought Rosario Dawson's overall portrayal of Ahsoka was absolutely spot on and phenomenal. I was shocked that a lot more people were asking for Ahsoka to be a lot more light and preppy, but this is a different Ahsoka than what we had seen with Ashley Eckstein. This Ahsoka is a worn, battle-tested, and traumatized Ahsoka who's been around for a really long time at this point. The late Ray Stevenson gave an incredible performance in such little time, and I truly feel like they did an amazing job in casting Ezra. I'm not biased whatsoever. Amon, I love you. I thought Thrawn was excellent. To see fans come at his physical appearance was disgusting. It was so unfortunate. He's an excellent actor. His voice was so freaking cool. And the guy put on an awesome performance. And then we have Acolyte. Oh boy. Acolyte is a really, really, really tough one, because for me personally, I liked it. I really liked it. Lee Jong-jae did an absolutely amazing performance as Master Soul. The man literally learned English for this role, which he had never done for any role prior to this point. He did such an incredible job. However, I've got to be honest with the series, the Power of Two moment, the song... not a great moment. I'm not a fan of the song by any means. I'm not a fan of the chant. It was jarring, and then to hear it again at the credits scene, I'm like, what are we doing here? I couldn't stand it. That's just me. No, was not feeling it. Kimir, and I don't even know if I pronounced that correctly, is probably the biggest tragedy from the entire project itself. That was a great performance by an actor who you can honestly really tell, especially if you've paid attention to how he's been in conventions and appearances since then. This is a guy that really put his all in to this project and really, really wanted to continue and make a season 2. And so I do have to feel for the guy. He acted phenomenally well. The saber choreography for this was the best that we have seen since the prequels, and I would argue that some of the fights are on par, if not better, than some of the fights that we got in the prequels. The fight in the forest where he faced off against all those Jedi, that is easily a top 5 fight in Star Wars, arguably top 3. I do feel bad about no Season 2. I also understand why there is no Season 2, but I truly believe deep down that this is not the last that we see of Kimir. And, it's kind of crazy that I have to do this, but it's just the reality of the situation. Believe it or not, I am not rage baiting when I say I like The Acolyte. I really do. I have a poster up and everything. I promise I'm not trolling. Like, I do like it. I'm not kidding. And finally, before we get to Andor, Skeleton Crew. Overall, I think people really received this project well. I think people liked it. It was cute, it was safe, there were no risks taken, it was fun, and it was received really well. I don't think there were any problems with this series whatsoever. There were no complaints from me whatsoever, and I had a really, really cool interaction with the kids at MegaCon. That was a blast. Neil Nation, I appreciate you, brother. But with Andor, season 1 was really slow. I'll even admit it. It wasn't a bad slow, I'll give it that. I recognize the level of artistry and dedication that went on to creating a story. I liked season 1, I really did, but it was incredibly slow. With both seasons 1 and 2, the set design, absolutely impeccable. The costume design, absolutely impeccable. The writing and dialogue is easily the best dialogue that we have gotten in all of Star Wars, and it's not even close. Not that there's really a lot of competition when it comes to Star Wars writing, but that's not to belittle the level of Andor's writing. It holds its own with S-tier media. Star Wars fans have been begging for an adult type of media for literally decades at this point. Star Wars fans from the original trilogy have grown up, and Star Wars fans from the prequel trilogy have also grown up at this point. Star Wars fans have literally finally gotten a series that is catered to exactly them. The OG Star Wars fans, we finally have a series specifically made for them, and there's still complaints. Now, I need to specify this. These complaints are coming from a very, 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 very small group. Across comment sections, across social media, mostly really everywhere, critics, everyone. Andor is receiving praise. It's receiving the love that it absolutely deserves. And it's so refreshing to see a project like this that had blood, sweat, tears, and a whole hell of a lot of money thrown into it actually receive the praise and respect that it deserves. But what I fail to understand is the level of ridiculousness about some of the complaints that have come through about this series. There is a scene in the very beginning of Andor that sparked a really heavy debate, and I'm not going to spend a lot of time discussing this because I think the discourse around the scene is utterly ridiculous. The Empire, prior to even this series, has committed horrible atrocities on screen, off screen, in extended universe, in canon, whatever. And so the fact that we have people out there that even for a second believe that the Empire wouldn't commit SA, even just something as simple as an officer, and we don't believe that some of the higher-ups would condone something like that, let's be real, they're building a weapon to eradicate an entire planet. Like, SA would be the least of their concerns. And just on that topic alone, that is the last I'm going to speak on it, but I'm just saying, Star Wars fans, you've been asking to have an adult content for a very long time. Let's start acting like adults when we get it. Please. But now that I got that out of the way, I've got to speak positively about one of the best things that I have ever witnessed as a Star Wars fan. I got extremely lucky to watch the Andor finale at Lucasfilm headquarters, and on top of that, it followed up with a screening of Rogue One. And as someone who, when I initially watched Rogue One, my main issue was the fact that I really didn't care about these characters because we didn't spend any time with them and we haven't gotten the chance to develop them. Andor obviously did that. Andor added a level of intensity and suspense to Rogue One, which was already a phenomenal movie. When you add that much more intensity to a movie like that, it makes Rogue One such a better experience. And the crazy thing is, Rogue One came out almost a decade ago at this point. Even simple scenes with merely background characters added so much more weight, just even with a little screen time in Andor. My favorite example as I was watching this in Lucasfilm headquarters, General Davitz Draven. I had to Google his name, sue me. General Draven has this scene in Rogue One where he watches Cassian fly off in his U-Wing. Now, normally the scene would cut, you'd see, the U-Wing fly off, and then we'd get a cinematic with the U-Wing flying off the planet, whatever. But instead, the scene didn't cut there. Draven actually turns around, and you can see the stress on his face, and the camera then lingers on him for a few more seconds. Stuff like this is only a testament to the level of writing and directing and cinematography on both projects. Now, at the time when we first watched this meant very little to the audience. 2016, this had very little context, and we really didn't care that much. This was a scene shot over a decade ago, and you now, because of Andor, have so much more context and so much more weight. We now know the level of the depth and risk between Andor and David's relationship. Like, there's so much more intensity. You can really tell that there was some serious love given on both. And it's incredibly impressive to see them both interlapping, and I highly recommend, especially if you have finished Andor and you haven't already immediately rewatched Rogue One, what is wrong with you? I think the best part about everything with Andor is it comes from a director that is on record for saying he really wasn't even a Star Wars fan. We have also got to mention that Ben Mendelsohn, in every single scene that he was in, absolutely stole the show. This is going to be a hot take. I truly believe he's the best Imperial officer that we have seen on screen. But this compliment extends to every single actor and actress that we saw on Andor. There was literally not a single bad performance. And so now the problem sits for Disney and Lucasfilm. How do you move on from this? Where do you go from this? You've flat out spoiled your fan base. You've given them something so rich and refined, and you gave such love and attention to detail to characters that in the grand scheme of things are everyday people. I mean this as respectfully as I can, especially because I enjoyed this project, but can you imagine if Obi-Wan Kenobi got the budget and the writing and the directing and the cinematography that Andor did? Could you imagine? I truly hope that Lucasfilm looks at most of their projects from this angle for the future from this point on. Now, don't mistake me for saying not every project has to be this intense and mature. Star Wars, the longest time people have argued, is for teenagers and is for children. I get that. But if a guy who wasn't a Star Wars fan can put together what people are hailing as the best live-action Star Wars ever, then we can hold directors and creatives who are Star Wars fans to a much higher standard than we have been. And no, I like Kathleen Kennedy. Well, ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for even sticking around to this point. I really, really do appreciate it. I would love to do these type of video essays a lot more frequently. It really disappointed me with the Star Wars fandom because The Acolyte was kind of the first wake-up call where I realized I'm like, oh my god, okay, maybe, there isn't one side of the fandom that's kind of in the understanding of what quality project is and what isn't, and it was a real wake-up call to me. I think unfortunately a lot of Star Wars fans put themselves into identity politics way too easily. If you couldn't tell by this video, my opinions when it comes to Star Wars are all over the place. Acolyte kind of really proved that to me. I've literally witnessed so many people either, one, won't even watch these projects and will literally fight to the death in comment sections and across social media over a project they haven't even watched, and they're getting these opinions from YouTubers. They haven't even given these projects a chance themselves, which blows my mind. But I have an absolute ridiculous amount of opinions, and on some days you could get me arguing that Attack of the Clones is better than Revenge of the Sith, so I'm all over the place. So thank you for being here. Let's continue to grow. Let's continue to talk. I've got more videos coming down the pipeline. I'm so excited to show you. Vader suit up should be coming up next.